seated.
All right. Fun for kiddos. You get to head downstairs with Miss Kelsey today. You thought Molly was fun. Get ready. No. The energy level is not that far off of the same if you haven't gotten to know Kelsey yet. Maybe a little lower this week. She's had a kind of busy week, I think, but Gatlinburging it up. And we got to send her downstairs because she's an Ohio State fan, and I just don't want to see any of those right now. So I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. She is one because she went there, so she's not like a fan for obnoxious reasons. She actually has a reason to be a fan, but good times. So, I mean, not yesterday. Yesterday wasn't good times, but so we have been talking for a couple weeks of just about holidays, holy days, times to stop and remember. Last week we were talking about the table and the importance of those moments at the table to stop and be together. And so I'm curious, we are getting ready to step into a holiday. Thanksgiving is this week. Anybody have the whole week off? Congratulations. A lot of retired hands there. That's okay. Kiddos, I know, all left the room. They get the week off. They're super excited about it. But some of you will have festivities this weekend. You at least get Thursday, hopefully, for some of you. And I'm curious, how many of you, so we've got this graphic that's been up here this whole time, but how many of you will have something similar to this as a centerpiece or a part of a table somewhere this week? Anybody has one of these out? Anybody know what this is? Cornucopia, which is what? Horn of plenty. Man, look at him go. Right? The cornucopia is from Latin term corno, meaning horn, or copia, meaning plenty. Horn of plenty. There we go. And why in the world is that part of our holiday? And is it a part of our holiday? And that's why I asked. I'm curious because there are things that we kind of throw up as imagery around certain times that connect us to certain seasons. And Thanksgiving, we often see a cornucopia, though I have never sat at a table that I remember that actually had a cornucopia on it, right? Some of you may have in the past, but not many of us use that as a thing, although we would see it and go, oh yeah, obviously, Thanksgiving. And part of that is this horn of plenty. It's a reminder of the harvest that just came in, the plenty that we have, giving thanks and thanksgiving for the blessings and the abundance of the things that we have, the goodness of what's around the table. We've talked about this idea of stopping and appreciating. But the symbols sometimes connect our brain to certain things. Once we are done with this cornucopia this week, some of you are going to start thinking about things like this, right? Not yet, I get it. I'm not rushing you. Mine goes up tomorrow, but not rushing you. We have the week off. It became a tradition for the kids and I, because Nora's super into this. Her room has been decked to the halls for weeks now. Lights, she added a tree yesterday on her wall, made out of ribbon. Very lovely. Actually has lights on it and everything. She is constantly like, the moment Tessa walks out the door, let's put on Christmas music, because now Mom's gone. And Dad will let me and Mom won't. She is fully ready to go. But in the midst of that, there's this kind of sense of like, okay, we've got this tradition now, where we've got the week off. And I say off, like, I don't have the week off. I'm still doing stuff and working, but have some flexibility with their time off. And I say, I'll get this stuff out and we can start working on this in different points and periods throughout the week. And so as we do this, we have this kind of moment to start decorating. And as we set these things up, there are lots of little things that we set out that are reminders and things that start making it feel like, oh yeah, that's the season. TV's been trying to do this to us for a few weeks now, right? The Christmas commercial comes on and telling you that there's this really great deal on a $3,000 piece of jewelry that you should buy somebody for Christmas. I don't know about you, but I don't recommend that. Just because sometimes I think that might get you in more trouble than it gets you out of. But it always makes me laugh when we talk about, let's get a car for a Christmas gift or a really expensive piece of jewelry. But there's those ads that are full of Christmas imagery, full of trees and things that start making us think about that season. Huh? Great gifts, yeah. These things that come up that point us in that direction, that visually connect us to a time. For some of us, some of these things just, like, that's work. If I got to start setting up the tree, there's things I got to get out. There's things I got to start doing. I got to start clearing this mess. For the first time this year, our Christmas decorations are not stored in our garage right off of the kitchen. They are stored in the shed outside. I made shelves, I cleared space, and I got them out there. But I was thinking today about how much I'm going to have to move out of the way to get the totes that I keep in the back out and then put that stuff back in. I'm like, I just made a lot more work for myself. It's out of the way in the garage, but I just made a lot more work getting this stuff out than it used to be. And we might start thinking about all the work. I might start thinking about all the things I got to do, the gifts I haven't bought, the stuff that's got to be planned, the schedule that's going to pick up and get busy, that Christmas Eve service that Nick just told me about. I got to put that on the calendar, all of the stuff. But what's the purpose of all the decorations? What's the purpose of a cornucopia? What's the purpose of setting one of these out on the entertainment center in your living room like we will do here later this week? That exact deal right there. We start setting these things out partly to get in the festivities, partly to get into the celebration, but hopefully, just like the cornucopia is the horn of plenty, it has meaning and reason behind it. It is a symbol of something that we are supposed to be drawn to. There are decorations, there are traditions, there are things we do that are meant to invoke in us this memory, this remembering, especially when we start talking about a symbol like this. A ornament, a decoration in and of itself is not holy. This set has nothing sacred about it. However, it can become a sacred reminder as we walk throughout a busy season to slow down, to stop. Just like we talked about the table being this special place that doesn't have to happen at a holiday. It can just be an evening meal, a time for us to sit down. Last night, out of nowhere, when we close up Sabbath, sometimes we'll go sit in the living room together as kind of a way of breaking our stoppage of using the television and some of the things we've done. Little less yesterday because, I was hoping that game would be life-giving. It wasn't. But in the midst of some of those normal routines and rhythms, we will sometimes go in and sit down and like watch The Chosen or something like that. Because I'm like, I don't want to just throw on random television and everybody just disappear to their screens. But if we can break that kind of fasting from that media with something good together, that feels a little better. And so we've talked about that and we've done that. And we threw that out as an option last night. And Nora goes, no, let's sit at the table. And I was like, why? She goes, it's healthier for us. We should just sit at the table. And I was like, okay. I was like, you weren't even in my sermon last week. You were downstairs with the kids. That's great. Because we talk about these opportunities for moments to sit together to be special and important. But these images, these decorations, these things that we keep around for holidays have an opportunity to be a reminder that points us back. Not just the nativity. And honestly, it doesn't even have to be something that represents Jesus at Christmas. I know that one sounds a little questionable. But sometimes it is the thing that makes us slow down and stop and think. I was telling Larry earlier, we were talking before service, before y'all got here this morning, and chatting about different things that just take you back and bring you into specific memories, and how odd memories and things are. Music that takes you to a certain spot. I was sitting in the dentist chair this week, got a temporary on, getting ready to get that, full-blown cap or crown or whatever you want to call it put on there. So that's fun. And I'm sitting there as they, whittle away at my tooth. And their playlist in the dentist office has all kinds of stuff from when I was in high school, when I was in college, from when I was a younger kid, but all of the songs are hitting specific memories. And I told her when she was, getting my temporary tooth ready to go, I was like, this playlist is kind of spanning a large gap of time. However, it's hitting me in so many different specific places and memories. I feel like I'm bouncing all over time right now to specific places and people and things, because that music brings out specific memories, brings out specific feelings, brings out emotions and different things that take place, because those are connected in our brain to things that cause us to remember. Just like a decoration, when we get it out, may be a thing that points us back to Jesus. It may be a thing that reminds us of a family member that was dear to us. It may be something we get out that reminds us of a simpler time when Christmas was a little more joyful. It might remind us of a dinner that we had with our family when we used to sit down for Thanksgiving meals in a certain way with these certain people that was different. These things connect us to memories and emotions and moments. And we might have a tendency at times to say it's dangerous to get too emotional when it comes to our faith. If you start letting your emotions dictate how you follow Christ and how we engage in our faith, and every feeling that we have, everything that we feel starts to drive and push, and our emotions lie to us sometimes, right? We get worked up and upset about things that don't matter. We hold on to things that we should let go of because our emotions tell us that's hard to let go of. And we say our emotions shouldn't drive too much. But I think that God wired us very specifically, especially our brain, which is one of the things that most soundly gives me confidence in a creator. Our minds and the way they work, the function of our brain, the kind of supercomputer it is that we can't even begin to replicate no matter how good we make AI. And AI is crazy impressive in some ways right now, but it's also still super dumb in moments right now. The idea of trying to replicate what God created in our minds is just wild to me. And while I'm sitting there in the dentist chair, the time machine jumps that are taking place in my memory and my emotions and the feelings and the situations and the people and the stuff that is coming back to my mind is a little overwhelming when you think about it. God designs us that way, and not only designs us that way, but tells us consistently in His Word that it is important to remember. There are so many of these different festivals and feasts we've already talked about to this point where God establishes, hey, here's the Sabbath, keep it holy. Honor it and keep it holy as a rhythm in your life. Every 7 days there is rest. because it is important for you to remember that you are about more than the bricks you made this week. That you have your identity in something else, and that rest, this pointing back to Eden and this pointing forward to the ultimate fulfillment of all of my promises, I want you to remember that. Here's this feast of the Passover. Every year I want you to get together these ingredients, these detailed foods that we talked about last week at this meal that's prepared, these bitters that are reminding of you of the pain of slavery, this lamb that reminds you of the lamb that was sacrificed to save you in this Passover moment. I want you to gather these things as reminders so that you see them, and that as you taste that thing, as you use your senses, it takes you back and reminds you. I want you, as you eat this food, to let it be a reminder to you. As God's taking his people out into the wilderness after the Passover, they wander for 40 years. They failed. They don't have enough faith to go into the promised land at first. And God says, no, you're going to hold out and you're going to wait until you're ready. 40 years pass, and it's finally time to enter into the promised land. And what does he do? He says, go gather 12 large stones. I walked back to my office and then realized, oh, I'm late. That last song just ended. I got to hurry back. And I walked off and left it sitting on my desk. I meant to carry up here this little stack of stones that's sitting on my desk. This little pile of stones was a gift given to me because this same concept that God gives to his people was a message that my youth pastor, my good friend Chip Rogers, shared on the day that I was ordained into ministry. And he talked about this moment in time where God is fulfilling promises in the life of his people, delivering them into the promised land. And he says, take these stones and make this pile of stones, this reminder, this little memorial. 12 different stones, one for each tribe, reminding you of what I have delivered you from, and reminding you that I'm giving you this promised land. As you cross over into this land, set this up. Gather these stones from here and set it up as a reminder that you can come back to with your children. Not only is this a reminder for you, it is an opportunity for you to take this and let it be a teaching tool that helps you say, here's what God has done for us. Look at this pile of rocks. How impressive is that? Pile of rocks. I would imagine a kid walking back with his parents to this spot, and dad is doing his best to teach how awesome God is, and the kid is looking at a pile of rocks. You put yourself in that kid's shoes for a minute. You know how we are. Oh, cool, Dad. It's a pile of rocks. The rocks aren't what's cool, right? But as Dad tells the story, listen, we were once slaves. Here's what Egypt is like. My grandfather said, this is what this looked like. This is what this felt like. This is what this was all about. And then God did this. Here's this amazing story of these 10 plagues and the way our people were protected. And then God wants to deliver us from Egypt, and he does this amazing thing. He parts the Red Sea, and he destroys Pharaoh and his armies, and we hear this epic story. And I can imagine the kid kind of going, oh, whoa, like the whole army crushed underwater, and you walked through, like they walked through on dry ground? Wild. And you're hearing this story, and you're kind of getting more into it, and this is more interesting. And then we were supposed to have this promised land, but the guys who went in came back and said there were giants. Said that there was lots of good stuff, but also lots of scary stuff, and we weren't sure we could do it, and so God said, nope, you're not ready yet, and made us wander. And we had to depend on him day after day after day after day, and finally, he brings us in. We conquer city after city after city and claim this promised land through God's promises, through God's provisions. We shouldn't have beaten Jericho. That was a weird one. We just walked around in circles and blew a bunch of horns, and suddenly these walls fell in. I know, it was wild. And as he tells this story, these rocks aren't just rocks. They're a reminder of something specific that God has accomplished in our lives. Something that invokes in us memory, emotion, concern, and deep care, because that thing has become a representation of what is already meaningful, but that life sometimes wears out of us. Because no matter how good God's faithfulness is, no matter how good His promises are, you know and I know, and the Bible consistently shows us and proves that we are a people who get distracted. We are a people who forget. We are a people who take our eyes off of the important things and start focusing on the more pressing concerns and worries. We are like Peter stepping out of that boat and going, whoa, I can't believe Jesus is letting me walk on water. This is amazing. Until suddenly I realize the wind is blowing really hard. Oh my gosh, that wave is really big. And Jesus is right there. But the waves and the commotion and the chaos and the hurt and the pain and the uncertainty and the chaos of this life become too much for us, and we start to focus on it, and we start to sink. And God says, I wired your brain to be able to remember. I wired your brain that certain smells, certain sounds, certain images, certain tastes will immediately snap you back to remember. Sometimes those connections are not always good. Sometimes it might take us right back to a memory in a place we don't want to be in. But we have an opportunity, especially holidays, holy days, times that are set apart, not just to rush through a season, not just rush through the different pieces of what's going on, not just say, all right, we sat down at the meal, we fixed all the food, we got to eat all the food, but now we got to hurry and clean all the food because somebody's got to get out of here, and there's a football game on here in a little bit, and we got to do all this stuff. And sometimes we just do the thing because that's what's expected. And we miss the opportunity in the moment to let those things be a reminder, to be special, to be details that reconnect us, not just back to an emotion about a holiday, a time where Christmas was simpler and fun because I got a great toy, but connect us back to the gifts that God has given us. Every good and perfect gift comes from the Father above. Every meal is set to be a reminder, and the reminder of this meal, a reminder of this moment, becomes important to helping people understand how do we see this moving forward. He took the bread and gave thanks. Sitting at the Passover meal, Jesus took bread. Bread that is set to remind them, and I say bread, I'm holding a loaf. Remember, it's unleavened bread. We're talking about the Passover, bread made in a rush because they have to leave quickly. And he breaks this unleavened bread, this bread that was to remind them specifically of what God did for them in delivering them from slavery. Jesus is observing that meal and observing those remembrances with his disciples. And he breaks that bread. He gave thanks, broke it, gave it to them, and said, "This is my body, which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." I guess I could put it on the screen, huh? Took this symbol that was already set to remind them and says, "Do this in remembrance of me." Whoa, this is the Passover meal, Jesus. This is supposed to remind us of Exodus, the Exodus from Egypt. And Jesus is saying, I have set you free in a way that goes beyond Pharaoh. I've set you free from so much more than Pharaoh could have even held you to. I am setting you free from your selfishness, from your brokenness, from your desire to take care of yourself over others. I'm setting you free from your nature that wants to seek after only what pleases you and what satisfies from this world and the desires and the hungers and the things you chase after. I am forgiving you and setting you free from any of the hindrances and any of the brokenness that sin has caused in your life. From shame, from guilt, from punishment, from judgment, I'm setting you free. This is my body, which was given for you. My life, my example, my everything given for you. Breaks the bread and says, do this in remembrance of me. And in the same way, he also took the cup after the supper. This cup of wine probably specifically is in reference to the redemption, the blood of salvation, the blood that saved them in this Passover moment, the blood that was spread on the doorposts, reminding them of the way they were set free from death. This cup is a new covenant, a new promise, a new relationship we enter into, where I have fulfilled your end of the deal. But we enter into a new relationship, a new covenant that has been sealed by my blood, which hasn't been yet because this is the night before, right? The night before he's to be arrested, taken, tried, and all these things take place. But he says, this is a new covenant that's coming in my blood, which is poured out for you. You'll do this in remembrance of me. You see, it's not just rocks. It's a rainbow after a flood. It's a certain kind of bread that he gives them to remind them. It's an Ark of the Covenant that he gives them to remember. The 10 Commandments are in there, along with a few other things that remind you that my presence resides with you. That thing is to go in the Holy of Holies. Do you think that God's presence was limited to and contained by a box that he gave them instructions how to build that was just designed just right to contain his presence? No. But it was the symbol where God's presence chose to rest, to remind them that there is a holy space where my presence resides. And in that Ark of the Covenant that he gave them as a visual reminder that his presence and power went with, throughout the Old Testament we see, when it went to certain places, certain things happened. When it came back to the people, his blessing and presence was with them. He wanted them to understand the power of his presence, a visual reminder. And on the day Jesus dies and pours out that blood and says, it is finished, the curtain that is hiding that Holy of Holies, that Ark of the Covenant from everybody else, is ripped from top to bottom. And that symbol is no longer the place that represents God's presence. Scripture goes on to tell us, you are now a temple. You are now the place where his presence dwells. But these visual reminders were so important for helping his people connect with and remember. So many different pieces and so many different things over time. Do this to remember. Observe this to remember. See this and remember. There are holy moments of remembering. Set apart, sacred, and special. We have one we celebrate every Sunday when we gather here in communion, in the Lord's Supper, in the Eucharist, the taking and partaking of his body and his blood in remembrance of what he's done, and in joining in and participating and taking him upon ourselves, saying, he is ours. I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. I participate in this and I remember this, and it is a statement and a claim and not just something we sit back and look at and remember fondly. But think about this idea as we walk through holy days, holidays, a season that gets chaotic, a season that gets a little wild, a season that may be full of stressful conversations, a season that may be full of a lot of screaming kids, a season that may be filled with a lot of messes and dishes, a season that may be filled with a lot of things that could bring stress. Find a way to look for things that invoke holy, sacred, stopping moments of being set apart and remembering. It may not be a cornucopia on the table, but it may be that other centerpiece that your family has used for a long time. It may be looking across at that screaming, crying child, which you wish would stop crying and screaming and throwing a fit right now. But stopping and remembering what a blessing they are, not just how unfortunate the timing is of the behavior, which is the wave that we sometimes want to focus on, versus the true blessing it is. You hear me say this sometimes around here. Noisy kids in this room do not bother me in the slightest. a kid in this space, we sometimes think, well, they're distracting us from, if we let them, they can be a distraction from something. But if we let them, they can be a blessing where we remember God's goodness, God's love, God's provision. What we see and what we remember is based off where our heart is, based off where we let our emotions and our minds live. If I'm only focused on the waves and the frustration, I run past the symbols, I run past the decorations, I run past that nativity set, past that cornucopia, I run past all those other little things that have opportunities to be reminders. Because I'm too frustrated, too busy, too hectic and chaotic, not living in the cycle of Sabbath rest, not living in the beauty of relationship and table, but just moving through to get to the next thing. I'm so busy trying to worry about what is to come or what may happen that I forget to stop, look back, and remember why this moment, why this opportunity, why these people, why these things are so good in the first place. Because every good and perfect gift comes from the Father above. And He calls us to live in moments where we slow down and rest in the beauty of His goodness, to rest in the amazing moments being present with Him and His gifts. And these holidays, these decorations, holiday specials on TV, little moments and little things have the opportunity to be an incredible blessing that takes us into His presence. Not because God said, and every year you should watch the Charlie Brown Christmas special because it's important. It's not. However, it's one of those beautiful moments I look forward to, no matter when it is, and probably, in all honesty, these days, because, yay, digital media and DVDs and all the other kinds of ways I have access to it, it may not just be once a year anymore. Back in the day, it was like, please tell me we're not busy on the night that's going to be on TV. Nowadays, it's like, yeah, I can just watch it whenever I want. In some ways, I think that makes it less special, and it kind of hurts me a little bit, because there was this anticipation of that night and that time I was going to get to remember and be a part of that thing. Today, it's just kind of like whenever I get to it, it'll be fine. But when we have those moments to stop and remember, and Linus gets up with his blanket and starts telling the Christmas story, it takes me to a good place. Because that's a fond memory of an easier and simpler time that still points me back to what I love about that season, that is Jesus, Emmanuel, God with us. Same kind of thing every Christmas Eve. For years and years and years, it was sitting around in my grandmother's front room before we could ever touch any presents that were under that tree, sitting around Grandma while she read to all of us grandkids Luke chapter 2 in the Christmas story. These days, that get-together doesn't happen anymore. Grandma's living down in Georgia right now. Not going to have that moment. My family has started to say, all right, what's our new tradition? What is the new thing we do? Right now, Christmas Eve service is a part of that. And I'm kind of excited about that for the first time in my life. Not that I didn't enjoy spending Christmas Eve with y'all all those other times before. But sometimes it was this stress of, I'm going to disappoint family who wants me to be there, but I got to work and I got to do this stuff, and then I got to rush over and do this. And sometimes if we let it, it becomes the thing that is stressful and distracting. But when we get into this moment where we say, no, this is part of the important tradition. My family can participate in this, and there's nowhere to rush. Last year, we ordered Chinese food after, which I think we're going to do again because it's a fun tradition, and they're open. And we went back to our house and started our own traditions of being in our own Christmas pajamas, eating our Chinese food, and sitting around and participating in our own traditions and the things that will invoke those memories in us. It doesn't so much matter what and how. What matters is where you let God take you in your worship of Him, in your appreciation of Him, in your devotion of your mind to Him, letting Him truly renew and transform you by the transformation of your heart and your mind. You hear me say it all the time, and I will continue to say it all the time because I believe it is such an important statement that Paul makes in Romans 12. Therefore, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That's not something you do by working extra hard. It's something you allow God to do by giving him space to work. And when we give him space to work, when we give him our focus during these holidays, we give him our attention and say, I'm not going to let the little stuff get me down. I'm not going to let the little stuff drive me crazy. I'm not going to let that one relative who wants to talk about that one subject way too much be the thing that stresses me out. I'm going to find a way to worship my Father and let them be a reminder of how good he is. I'm going to let this be a holy moment of remembering why he is faithful and good. Remember, everything in that pile of rocks and before is a reminder of how faithful he has been, not how perfect my world is. Everything good in my world, no matter how messy it is a gift from him who has been faithful to me, even when I have not been faithful to him. And he's saying, it's okay. While you were still sinners, I died for you. While you were still far away from me, I loved you. I want to set you free, and I want to help transform you by the renewing of your mind so that you can live in the love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control that is the fruit of my Spirit at work in you. I want to make you that person rather than the one who's just stressed and angry and frustrated and worried about what they do and they don't have. But some of that transformation begins with our willingness to stop, our willingness to see other people, to sit and commune with other people at a table, and our willingness to let the little things be a blessing and a joy and reminder of his faithfulness to us. And so as we step into these next few weeks, my prayer for you and over you is that we not let the enemy win in discouraging us, frustrating us, wearing us out, beating us down, talking about how it is or isn't this or that, but letting us rest in the goodness of who he is, what he wants for us, what he has accomplished in us, and how he is continuing to provide for us. And we celebrate and worship him in every season, in every moment, in a rhythm of Sabbath rest, in a rhythm of holidays and seasons, in a rhythm where we continually take moments to stop, reflect, and remember. Let's bow our heads. I just encourage you for a moment to let yourself remember. Holidays are an excuse to stop and give us a little more space to remember. But again, Sabbath is a regular weekly reminder. We have this opportunity to be still and know that he is God. To be still and to remember. And so I encourage you just for a moment to remember whatever it is he brings to your mind. Whatever blessings and goodness, whatever hardships he has been with you through, whatever daring escapes you feel like you've made because of his faithfulness to you, give yourself a moment to be still and remember how good and faithful he is. just encourage you for a moment. On the other side of that, number one, just continue to stay in that position of remembering. You have opportunities throughout communion and throughout the songs that we sing to continue that position of remember. If you need to sit down in the middle of the song later and just remember, that's perfectly okay. Always is perfectly okay. But in this moment, I just encourage you to pray this simple prayer. God, I know that there's this moment, this get-together, this day that everybody else has off that I have to work, this thing that I'm still anxious and frustrated about that makes this feel like I'm more stressed about it than joyful in it, that I'm still worried about it rather than looking forward to it. There is this space where I am focused on the waves versus on your blessing. Can you help me to surrender that and lay that at your feet and trust you with it? Can you help me to seek and start transforming my perception right now so that I can enter into that space or the upcoming spaces or whatever that moment in space and time is that'll allow me to reflect on and celebrate you? Help me to surrender. Father, I love you. And I love your people. And I love your ways. I love the fact that you created us and designed us with this mind that's so interwoven and interconnected with smells and tastes and sounds and things that just immediately invoke these memories in us. And like I said, Father, sometimes that feels like a bit of a curse in different moments. But in other moments, it can be such a blessing. And I pray that we would surrender that over to you and continue to give more and more of our heart, our memories, our mindset, and our focus to you so that more and more when that mindset is triggered, when we jump to a memory and a time, that more and more often it would be related to and connected to you and your faithfulness and your blessing, and that we would live in thanksgiving. Not just celebrate a meal once a year where we kind of think about our blessings, but that we would live in a perpetual existence in a state of thanksgiving in our lives because our mind and our memories are in a rhythm of being drawn back to you and celebrating you for your goodness. I pray your blessing over your people right now, that you would, Father, help them in the midst of those moments where the waves seem to be rocking the boat and there is fear and anxiety and frustration and worry about the things that are to come. I pray that you would help calm the storm and help them to see your beautiful presence standing right before them. Father, I pray that they would have moments and times to honor and celebrate you with everything they have. That each and every one of us would grow in our relationship and commitment to you because we simply slowed down and remember. Help us to have those holy moments. It's in the precious name of Jesus I pray. Amen. This is that moment every week where we remember. It's the reminder of what we just talked about. That God is a God who constantly gives us things to hold on to touch and see and look back at, to say, remember. He took the bread and he broke it and gave thanks and said, this is my body given for you. This is my blood poured out for you. Do these things in remembrance of me. Live your life. Every time you get together and break bread, do it in remembrance of me. Every time you stop and slow down and rest, Do it in remembrance of me, because I am the one who said, all you who are weary and heavy laden, come to me and I will give you rest. His promises, his faithfulness, his goodness are consistent, steadfast, dependable, and good, despite how steadfast, dependable, faithful we have been. And he says, it's okay. This new covenant, I got you covered. Do this in remembrance of me, because I have made it possible for you. We do this in remembrance of him. Father, again, I just pray in this moment we would see you, we would know you, we would meet with you. It's in the precious name of Jesus I pray. Amen.
if you'd like to stand with this last song, please do. And if you'd like to continue sitting and worshiping, that's fine too.
Well, as we head out this morning, I hope and pray that you have a great week. No matter how much time you get off, I hope that you get some time to rest, to be still, to spend some time with people you love, and to remember how good He is, how much blessing He has provided, and what goodness He has poured into your life. And if you are struggling to see what good is there, I promise you there is. But sometimes when we get focused on what the world tells us to focus on, it's easy to miss. And so hopefully this week becomes a week, a time, a moment to slow down and rest in his goodness and to remember his blessing. I love and appreciate you all. I am super thankful for each and every one of you. We're going to close with a word of prayer, and we'll be dismissed. Father, I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for the gift of this community. I am thankful for the moments we have to share burdens with one another, to lift up and rejoice in praises with one another, to celebrate the goodness of what it is you have brought into our lives. Father, if we are struggling to see that goodness, I pray for each and every one in this room that you would provide those people to lift up and encourage, to help support us in the rough seasons where it is hard to remember and see. Father, I pray your blessing on each and every one, that they would you would be with them as they go from this place, and that they would continue to be able to seek you in everything this week. It's in the precious name of Jesus I pray. Amen.
So Jay's supposed to be back next week, and I think Molly too. So yeah, I think so. Yeah. So are you going to be here next week? Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, like I said, I think Jay's supposed to be back, and Jay's picking the songs, so I'm sure he'll go ahead and lead.